I arrived home earlier than I planned. A meeting with a client in downtown Houston got canceled unexpectedly. On my way back, I stopped to buy a bunch of white dahlias, the kind my husband, Jason, once said looked nice, but plain. I didn't argue about it anymore. Everyone has their own taste in beauty. Back then, I thought our only difference was our choice of flowers. The door swung open, and the first sound I heard was laughter. Not the playful laughter of kids or friends hanging out, but the kind of laughter that belongs only to two lovers in a bedroom. I froze in the wooden hallway. My heart raced as if my body already sensed what was waiting upstairs. I slipped off my shoes, still holding the flowers, and quietly climbed the stairs. The house I had spent 3 years designing every detail, every tile, felt strange all of a sudden. Not a single floorboard creaked. I had replaced the whole staircase just last summer when Jason was away on a business trip to Austin. That trip, he told me Mega, my college best friend, had gone to see her aunt. Looking back, how many of his trips had I just accepted without question? I slowly opened the bedroom door. On the soft gray linen bed I had picked myself to create a peaceful space, Jason lay between two women not strangers, but painfully familiar. Megan, with her bright blonde hair and the same eyes that had met mine at my mother's funeral. And Chloe, who had stood by me for 2 years building our business. The woman I had shared every client and design with. No one spoke. Only Jason looked at me not with guilt or fear, but with irritation. "Julia," he snapped like I was the one who had interrupted. "You didn't call first." I glanced at him, then noticed the necklace Megan wore, the one I had given her last Christmas. The scent of Chloe's perfume, which she had once borrowed, now filled the room. I didn't ask questions. I didn't shout. I didn't demand to know why or for how long. I stayed silent. Somehow, that silence scared them more than any yelling. I don't know what to say," Chloe finally said, avoiding my eyes. Megan pulled the blanket up to her chest, her eyes red as if she had practiced crying for this moment. Jason clumsily slid his pants back on and said, "Don't get the wrong idea, Julia. This isn't what it looks like." I stared into his eyes. "You think I'm wrong? 3 naked people in my bed." The room fell quiet. Felt like watching a cheap play only. The props, the setting, and the actors were all mine. "Julia, please let us explain." Megan's voice shook. I cut her off, calm but firm. If I hear one more excuse, I might throw up. No one pushed me out, but I was the first to leave. I didn't run or collapse. I just walked slowly down the stairs, still clutching the flowers I hadn't even put in a vase. When I reached the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and looked out at the backyard, the one where I had planted every lavender bush by hand. Behind me, 3 people scrambled to get dressed. I didn't look back. Only one thought ran through my mind. I had given them everything: my heart, my time, my trust. Now I was going to take it all back, piece by piece. I sat quietly in the kitchen, unsure how long the water had gone cold. My eyes stayed fixed on the garden. A breeze stirred the lavender along the fence, the only thing in that house that hadn't betrayed me. All the memories I had tried to forget rushed back, like a film being rewound forcefully. 4 months ago, Jason asked me to sign a financial management form to help him organize investments. At the time, I didn't doubt him. He spoke in the calm voice of a devoted husband. "It's just to keep track of the real estate cash flow more easily. I don't want you to stress over the paperwork." I smiled and signed it. Looking back now, maybe I had handed him the last key to control everything we owned. A week later, Chloe Manning, my best friend from high school, asked me to submit a design proposal under my company's name for a potential client in Austin. She said she hadn't officially registered her business yet and needed credibility. I agreed without hesitation. We had shared late-night calls and endless revisions. I never thought she had been working behind my back. Last month, Emily borrowed $60,000, saying she urgently needed to clear her father's medical bills. I didn't ask questions. I wired the money that same night. No contract, no receipt. She had once cried in my arms when her mother died. I trusted she would never take advantage of me. Every request sounded reasonable. Every excuse made sense. But I missed what was hidden beneath the surface. Last week I got a call from a big client in New Orleans. I had designed their lakefront vacation home the year before. They asked bluntly, "Sara, are you still handling this project, or are we moving ahead with Jenna Design & Co.?" At first, Jenna thought they had the wrong person. But after following up, I discovered Rachel had been acting as the creative director and sent my entire portfolio to clients under the name Leet Interiors, a name we once joked about after a few glasses of wine. Now it was real, and I was out. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't make a scene. Instead, I began to dig old emails, messages, calendars, little details I had missed before. Everything came together clearly. The investment agreement with Adam, the one he called temporary, had a clause stating that if I didn't respond in writing within 60 days, full control would go to him. I hadn't replied because I hadn't. Read it closely. The money I sent to Emily was actually moved to a joint account she shared with Adam. I traced it through a strange email that appeared in my spam folder, where she asked me to send the original file for a spa project in Santa AE to make editing easier. I never got the rights to that project back. And Rachel, she didn't just steal my designs. She also sent invitations to my most loyal clients from a personal email I had created for her without any security controls. I still had the photo of me teaching her how to present a mood board that met international standards. I had created someone who turned into a twisted version of me. They didn't betray me overnight. They had been planning this for months, maybe years. Kai just trusted them blindly. They thought I would scream, text angrily, or cry to save our friendship or marriage. They were wrong. I didn't want answers from them. I wanted proof. And I knew none of the three were smart enough to hide everything. The next morning, I left the house in Houston. No note, no message, no call. I just put the keychain back on. The stone countertop, the same place Adam used to sit for hours, working on investment plans while I cooked. The last time I stood in that kitchen, I saw Emily's lipstick mark on a red wine glass and a long blonde hair strand draped over the wooden chair Rachel always used. I left quietly. But inside, my mind was a storm. I drove north on Highway 75, past McKinney, then turned into a small lakeside town called Cedar Point. I had designed a vacation cabin there once for a client. The cabin was empty since they were in Europe for 3 months. I still had the spare key in my purse. No one knew where I was. I had no plans to tell them. That same afternoon, I called to people Tommy Raines, a lawyer who worked with my father when he was a financial advisor, and Isabel Green, private investigator known in Texas business circles for being cold, precise, and discreet. I need to gather financial evidence and proof of wrongdoing involving 3 people, I said directly in my first call to Isabel. My husband, Adam, and 2 women I once called friends, Emily and Rachel. Not to make noise, but to do this by the book. Isabel didn't ask for more. Her voice was calm and steady. "I'll need 5 days, but I'll start in 5 minutes." I hung up and opened my laptop. My inbox flooded with messages from Adam, starting with, "Please talk to me." Then quickly turning to, "If you don't reply, I'll assume you're abandoning the home." Emily sent a long, tearful voice note. "Sara, you don't understand. It's not what you think." It sounded like a script copied from what Adam had said days before. Rachel was brief, as usual. "We need to talk about the Austin project. The client is panicking." I don't know. What could I say when I stayed silent? That silence told them everything I needed. The quieter I was, the more desperate they became. I needed that for the next 2 days. I gathered old emails, payment records, original drafts, and monthly work logs. I had backed up everything on an external hard drive, not just as a precaution, but now it was my strongest weapon. Every file, every note, every email that ended with "to Sara," my best friend, became proof of years of planned betrayal. Isabel worked like a machine. On the third day, she sent me a recording of a call between Rachel and a building supplier. In it, Rachel claimed she had full authority to represent Elite Interiors. The problem? That company had never legally existed. On the fourth day, Tommy found that most of the savings Adam and I contributed had been moved into a hidden investment fund registered under Southlake Real Assets, LLC. I had never heard of it, but Adam had filed the paperwork 3 months earlier all alone at the same time. Isabel discovered that Emily had used the money I sent her to put a down payment on a luxury apartment downtown, which she coned with Adam. I sat quietly in the cabin, eyes fixed on my laptop screen. Each new piece of evidence peeled away another layer, like a snake shedding its skin. They never expected me to investigate. They thought I was too soft to fight back, that I'd break like a discarded wife. That was their biggest mistake. I saved everything 3 copies. One sent to Tommy, one stored in the cloud, and one on a separate drive locked in a safe at a former client's office in Sherman. Someone I trusted who never asked questions. That night, stepped onto the cabin's porch and looked down at the lake's smooth surface. Something new stirred quietly inside me. It wasn't anger, wasn't sadness. It was control. I no longer cried. Everything I needed to know, I knew. Everything worth keeping I had already saved on the lake. My reflection stretched long and clear, like a single pencil line. The night wind swept over the wooden porch cold, but no longer biting dot. In that stillness, everything began to fall into place. After 3 weeks, I returned to Houston without leaving a trace. No visits home, no messages. I simply rented a small squall apartment near downtown where the late afternoon light filtered softly through the windows, helping me focus. On the first day, I sent a short email to Mr. Bruce Watson, Senior Investment Director at Bancroft Effect Equities. The firm Adam was pitching for a resort project in Clear Lake. I had met Bruce 3 years earlier at an art fundraiser. He once asked me about marble flooring finishes, remembered that detail, and knew he would too. I said nothing about my personal life and attached a few clear documents. A notice from the Department of Building and Safety about violations at the Clear Lake project, a land status report showing unapproved permits, and 2 photos of fund transfers from Adam's investment firm to a personal account. No accusations. No opinions. Just facts delivered at the right time in the right place 2 days later. I heard Adam's investment pitch meeting with the board was suddenly postponed. The firm requested a review of legal details. His texts changed tone, no more threats. Only questions. I didn't reply. The next week, I went to Luna's Skin and Body, a high-end spa in the Bishop Arts District where Emily had just become co-founder. I didn't talk to her. I went straight to the building manager, Mr. Thomas Beard. I had rented office space on the upper floor years ago and knew how careful he was with lease inspections. "Hello, Mr. Beard," I said as he looked up from his desk. "Are you aware that your ground floor tenant is making off-the-books cash transactions on the property? So, it could affect your insurance renewals." He stared at me for a long moment. No questions. I knew him well enough to understand. This didn't need a formal meeting. The next morning, I received an email from Emily. The subject was in all caps. "What are you doing?" I didn't open it, but saved it. On Friday, I went to the launch event for a new furniture collection. At the Studio C showroom, Rachel was introduced as a guest creative director. I didn't interrupt the event or cause a scene. Instead, I had a sealed envelope delivered to Mrs. Donna Wallace, Studio C's main investor. Inside was a printed copy of a design portfolio Rachel had presented, but with my forged signature, along with original project images I had archived. From the previous year, I knew Donna didn't like being deceived. And she especially hated having her name linked to copyright violations. That afternoon, got a call from Studio C not to apologize, but to clarify creative boundaries. 3 strikes from 3 sides. No threats. No confrontations. Justice didn't need me to judge their intentions. I just needed them to hear the echo of what they had denied all along. The truth. That night, I sat in my home office. The desk lamp cast a warm light over a map of financial ties Isabel and Tommy helped me piece together. The lines lit up like a spiderweb Molly listed on an offshore account. Rachel transferring unauthorized design rights. Adam still trying to save a frozen project fund? No one knew that while they thought I was hiding. I was only slowing down. To see every crack clearly. There was no need for court. The system was already working against him. With the right evidence sent to the right places, I just had to wait. Wait for the surface they had built so carefully to break. Piece by piece. On the 10th morning after I returned to Houston, I went to my old gynecology clinic in Lakewood. Dr. Peterson had cared for me through 2 miscarriages before. I hadn't. Booked an appointment. I just showed up early and sat quietly in the corner of the waiting room, tapping my fingertip on the chair's edge to keep calm. The ultrasound results came in under 20 minutes. The doctor said little, just handed me the black and white printout and nodded. Double quotes, 8 weeks, he said. Strong heartbeat. Everything looked stable. I looked down at the image, so quiet I hardly recognized myself. I had been pregnant 3 times before time, ending in the cold white of a hospital bed and the hum, then, of anesthesia machines. But this time was different. Not just because my body was stronger, but because my mind no longer relied on anyone else. Adam didn't know about this appointment. I had no plans to tell him. After the checkup, I didn't go back to the rental apartment. I drove straight to Tommy's office, hearing the pregnancy results and a full file of personal assets I had quietly separated over the past 3 years. I want to formalize everything under my name, I told him, and make sure anything I earn from now on is fully protected from marital claims. Tommy looked at me for a long moment. He didn't ask why, he just nodded and started typing. I still remembered that October night last year when Adam convinced me to transfer full ownership of my design company through a management authorization. He said it's just to make client negotiations smoother. I don't want you caught up in legal troubles if they mess up. I believed him. Now I knew that signature let him quietly control everything I had built. But from the moment Dr. Peterson folded the ultrasound folder closed, I no longer saw myself as defending ground. I was redesigning my life step by step, like every floor plan I had drawn over the past decade. I hired a financial advisor named Meredith Hall, a woman in her 50s who had helped many female entrepreneurs through tough divorces. She helped me create a private trust completely separate from any accounts linked to Adam. All income from my design firm, now rebranded, went straight into that trust. I also updated all my life insurance, estate plans, and medical authorizations. The sole beneficiary was the child who hadn't even called me mom yet. No one else. Meanwhile, Adam's messages grew, concerned long apologies wrapped in quiet threats. Sometimes blunt lines like, you can't be a mom alone. You need me? I didn't respond. Emily emailed, I heard you're back. There's something to say. Just say it. You're tearing down everything I had worked for. Sara, Rachel's end. An old photo of the 3 of us at my birthday party 2 years ago. Below it, she wrote, we used to be family. You remember? I looked at the picture. No anger, no heartbreak. Just the clear truth that I used to belong there, but now I didn't. As night fell, I stood on my apartment balcony, one hand resting on my stomach. No one knew, but I had been speaking to the baby every day, not with words, but with actions. Every signed document, every untangled asset, Every legal wall I built was my way of protecting this child from a legacy already crumbling. Tomorrow, I would go to the notary to officially give up my joint claim on the house. I had no wish to go back, no desire to fight for it. I just needed to make sure that when everything ended, I wouldn't carry anything that had ever been used to control me. Someone once asked if being a single mother was scary. I think the real fear isn't raising a child alone, it's raising a child in a home where lying has become a habit. One afternoon in early December, Tommy, my attorney, called. His voice was calm but measured, every word carefully chosen. Sara, federal investigators just issued an official notice. Adams' professional license is suspended. They've temporarily frozen 3 accounts linked to Southlake Real Assets. One includes Emily's name. I hung up and stepped away from my desk, loosely holding a cup of still warm tea. Outside the window, the sunset slid past bare tree branches. I didn't smile. I didn't sigh. I just stood still, feeling the cold wind outside reach deep inside me. 3 days later, the first article appeared in the local paper, Southlake CFO under investigation for investment fraud and tax violations. Adams' name wasn't in bold, but everyone in Dallas finance circles knew who it was about. His calls to the law office went straight to his assistant. Emily's emails bounced back, addressed no longer in use. I didn't need to drag them to court. The systems they had relied on were turning against them. Emily shut down her spa within a week after an unexpected tax audit. I heard she tried to sell off the equipment, but no one wanted it. Everyone feared the mess she left behind. She left Dallas quietly with a few suitcases and a nearly empty bank account. Rachel, once my assistant, then my impersonator in presentations, was removed from the Texas Interior Design Association after 3 clients filed complaints for plagiarism and misrepresentation. In her final letter to the board, she wrote, "I didn't mean to. Sara once told me to use that style." I didn't respond. They thought I would beg or plead or at least fight to reclaim my reputation. But whether or not I got anything back didn't matter anymore. What they broke couldn't be fixed. What I reclaimed wasn't my public image, it was my right to choose what deserved a place in my life. Adam tried one last time, through his lawyer, to negotiate asset division. But when the evidence came out and authorized withdrawals, forged contracts, investments made in our marriage's name without my consent, he had only one choice: withdraw. The divorce was finalized after nearly 2 months. Adam gave up ownership of the Highland Park home, removed his name from the design company, and agreed never to ask me for financial support again. I took nothing more. I just wanted to cut every tie that bound me to those people. The old house went up for sale soon after. I didn't go back to collect anything except for a small photo frame from the old bedroom. It was a picture of me and my mother on the day I opened my first office, before Adam ever came into my life. As for Emily's boutique, Rachel's studio, and Adam's investment firm, they were all either closed or in the process of being liquidated. That afternoon, I sat alone in my apartment, opened my laptop, and began designing a nursery for the baby growing inside me, a quiet space with warm light. Wallpaper with tiny woodland prints, neutral colors, nothing gendered, nothing forced. I wasn't doing it for the past. I was doing it because I wanted to. This child deserved to start life with purpose, not compromise. When the doorbell rang, I stood and opened it. Martha, the woman who managed the Lakeside Inn and had once made me my first cup of ginger tea after the biggest turning point in my life, was there. She handed me a small tin of cookies. "Congratulations, dear," she said. I nodded, accepted the tin, and invited her inside. We sat quietly in the kitchen, sharing a few ginger cookies in a soft gray space, clean, calm, and free of anything left behind. A year later, I moved into a new house north of Richardson. It wasn't large or fancy, but every detail was chosen by me, from the flooring to how the morning sun filtered through the white curtains. The kitchen overlooked a small herb garden where I had planted mint, And a few white peonies, the same kind Adam once said, were too costly for flowers that died in days. None of the three from my past had a place in my life anymore. Not because I banned them, but because I gently closed the door so completely that there was no room for them to slip back in. My design firm, now named Sage and Light Interiors, opened a small branch office in Austin. I worked less and more selectively, but every project spoke with my voice, no trends, no seeking approval. I hired 2 young designers, talented and kind. They didn't know my story, and I never told them. To them, I was just the boss who cared. About every detail was soft-spoken and always arrived 5 minutes early. My daughter, Sienna, had just turned 6 months old. She had chestnut eyes, soft curls, and a habit of chewing her sleeve when sleepy. Some nights, I woke half asleep just to make sure she was still breathing peacefully in those quiet moments. It felt like I had never known a single winter in my life. Sienna's room was the only part of the house bursting with color forest-themed wallpaper, pale yellow pillows, and soft lighting that fell over a corner shelf filled with picture books. Every time I carried her past the mirror, I saw someone new looking back at me. I no longer sought answers. I didn't need to know who was right or wrong. Some truths don't need words. They live in how we choose to let go and rebuild brick by brick with the trust we once lost. One early spring morning, an email arrived from an old client. Single mother living in Denver. She asked if I could redesign her 2-bedroom apartment after her divorce. She said she wanted everything to feel gentle but strong. I typed back one line. I understand that feeling more than you know. When Sienna woke, I greeted her with a smile. Holding her was like holding the part of myself I thought I'd lost forever. But this time I wasn't going to let go again. That afternoon, while making tea, I received a message from Martha, photo of a daffodil pot she had planted last year with a short caption, "It's blooming." I looked at the screen, then stepped into the backyard. The white peonies were blooming too, earlier than usual this year as Sienna slept in my arms. I brought her closer to the window where the soft evening light touched the freshly painted walls. No other reflection stared back, just the two of us. Us, a new world. Space I had built, piece by piece, with my own hands. Sara's story isn't just about surviving betrayal. It's proof of the power of calm intelligence and self-respect in the face of heartbreak, in real life. We can't control what others do with the trust we give. But we can choose how to respond, not with revenge, but with growth and strength. Rebirth doesn't come from shouting, it comes from quiet, steady decisions. Sometimes silence is the most powerful move of all. What do you think of Sara's choices? If it were you, what would you have done differently? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to follow the channel for more stories about family betrayal and the journey to healing.